Welcome back to the show. Today we have a special guest, Anna Hernandez. She is a super yoga teacher and model, and she teaches at Yoga Works on the west side at pretty much all of them. So, how's that going?
It's going so wonderful. I'm having a blast. I'm meeting a lot of wonderful people. And I'm getting a chance to learn myself, from amazing teachers as well. And just to be able to share the joys and all the wonderful well-being about yoga.
What kind of styles of yoga do you teach?
I teach vinyasa, hatha. I teach beginners as well as advanced yoga.
And what kind of styles do you practice?
My preferred practice would have to be Ashtanga yoga. I do practice that regularly about 6 days a week, sometimes 5, because I do like to take an Iyengar yoga class. That's actually what I started with, Iyengar and Vinyasa. And I really love those two styles of practice, their precision of alignment, all the benefits as far as well-being for the body too, as they talk about so much in their classes. But then the Ashtanga, I tried that afterwards. I really love the traditionalness of the practice and the intense discipline of it, and how it really helps you to, purify your body, mind, and heart.
That's awesome. When did you first take your first Iyengar class?
I took my first Iyengar class about 2014-ish. Yeah, it was that first year that I started practicing yoga. I took a couple, I was taking Vinyasa regularly, and then the teacher that was teaching me Vinyasa was very Iyengar based, and he suggested to me that I would try Iyengar, and so I started practicing at Yoga Works as well, Iyengar, and absolutely loved it.
Do you feel like you didn't take the Iyengar class at first because you were afraid of the name on the schedule?
Maybe I just didn't know anything about it. I wasn't afraid of the name or anything. It was just not something I had heard of before.
Do you feel like people, when they see a schedule and it says Ashtanga or lead primary or Iyengar, they kind of don't understand what that is and they kind of run away from those classes compared to like a core power or a vinyasa type of class?
Yeah, I think so. I think people don't have enough information as far as the fact that there's different styles of yoga. I mean, when I first came in, all I heard of was vinyasa, and that's what I tried. And then all of a sudden I saw on schedule Hatha, I saw Ashtanga, and all these different classes I knew nothing about. And I do think that happens to a lot of beginners. They come in and have no knowledge of yoga.
I feel like the words Ashtanga and Iyengar, people need to do more research and just type it in Google and look it up. Like, it's not that hard to do.
No, you're right.
But
it's
they
not
don't.
hard to do. I think we're just accustomed to things being right in front of us at the snap of our fingers. I mean, we have apps and all these different things that do everything easily for us. So, it's gotten to the point where even researching something is a little bit more challenging, for people.
Do you feel that teaching at Yoga Works, that must be so awesome because it has such a mainstream presence and it's super acceptable and all types of people are there of all ages and it's super convenient? How is teaching at a place like that?
It has its incredible benefits, but also has some of its downsides. It's beneficial because it does have the reputation. It's it's the first school to really bring about all the different styles of yoga under one roof. And I love the fact that there's so many incredible teachers there that have been there since the beginning. Well-known teachers who studied with the gurus themselves, Iyengar and Patabi Joyce. So it's been a wonderful experience to learn from them, learn the method of the school as well, and also be part of that community with such a large amount of people from different areas. Now, for me, the downside of it is just sometimes it could have that corporate feel. The fact that some of the classes can be a little short, like 55 minutes, doesn't make me feel like it's true to the practice, to the tradition. However, I understand, people nowadays, they don't have time to practice more than an hour. So for those type of folks, it benefits them to have a 55-minute class. So, there's an up and down to both, and it just depends on what you need, what it is the best for you in your practice.
Let's talk about the 55-minute class. I personally love teaching 55-minute classes. I think it is so awesome. It is so enjoyable. And before you know it, it's over.
Right.
And everyone's happy. Mm-hmm. You push them maybe a little bit harder in the beginning, so it makes them really feel like they're doing something, and then you get a nice kind of wind down, and then it's over, and everyone goes about their day. I feel like nowadays since 2012, even since I got a smartphone, my concentration skills have diminished. Not all the way, but they're not as good as they were before I got a phone like that. So I feel like 55 minutes, 60 minutes is more than enough for not a regular person, but let's say not a yoga master or an adept.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Someone who maybe just practices on a regular, maybe just 2-3 times a week, if that's all they can fit in, hey, take the class. I mean, it's good that we have those kind of classes out there for those people, because yoga works for everyone, right? So we need to be able to have a variety for everyone's needs, if we can. Try to adapt to these days. However, for me, as a dedicated practitioner, 55 minutes is just not going to cut for my practice. I'm very traditionalist in that sense, and I like to take my, minimum hour and a half of practice. And, in Ashtanga, it actually can go a lot longer, as you know. And so that's how I feel for my personal practice.
So when did you decide to start teaching?
I started teaching decided to start teaching I'd say about a year and a half into my practice. Also, teachers influenced me. They said, oh, you would make a really good yoga teacher. Why don't you go for it? And so that was kind of that curiosity that led me. And so I started taking the yoga teacher training. Fell in love with Yoga Works.
Okay, the 200 hour.
The 200 and 300 hours. So
okay.
I graduated through Yoga Works. And so I took the training, loved it. I went out and started teaching
right away. You had the confidence to just go out.
Well, I started practicing with friends and some family, and then from there I started maybe acquiring a couple of smaller classes here and there, subbing for people, just getting as much practice as I can and comfortable. Then I got my first teaching job in Venice Beach at a studio that no longer exists now, but it was back then Muscle Beach Yoga. I started teaching there regularly, so got that kind of feeling of being in a studio environment, and from there just kept going. Snowballed,
and now you're at every Yoga Works on the west side, pretty much.
But not only Yoga Works, I also teach at Omkar 108, which is like the top Ashtanga studio, in the west side.
And that's where you practice as well.
Yes, yeah, definitely, with Jorgen Christensen, one of the only few certified teachers in Los Angeles.
He's taught Madonna too, and Iron Man. He's really cool. He's
definitely one of the best teachers. I mean, he told me he meditated in a cave or been in a cave for like a month, and I was just like, "Whoa, yeah, this is definitely a teacher that I need to go to."
He's a little intimidating sometimes as well, but I like that. I need that little bit of scariness from the teacher. I don't want it to just be friends with the teacher. Oh,
that's only because as teachers we shine our mirrors towards our students, right? We shine the mirror back at us and reminding us of the work that we got to do. So that's sometimes that kind of feeling that teachers can stir in us, right? And that's our job, is to stir that in people.
Is to bring it all up, rise it to the surface. And I feel like Ashtanga in general is a very shamanic yoga practice, because it does bring up the mental turmoil. It does bring up the deep pain that we all have. So a lot of people don't want to do the practice because it's so in your face and it's so explosive of a heart-opening feelings that people get afraid of it because they don't want to actually see themselves for who they really are.
It's true. It's so uncomfortable to be able to sit with yourself, and nobody wants to do that. You're absolutely right. And I definitely feel that Ashtanga is very shamanic in the sense that it just stirs up all those energies from all the chakras, all your subtle bodies, all the different types of energies that we have within us. What's stuck in our nervous system that we've had from our childhood, from past lives. If you believe that, I certainly do. Past lives, and even genetically, from passed down from our parents and our ancestors. We have all of these stories, traumas, conditionings, all stored within our nervous system and our energy bodies. So this incredible practice helps to really ignite that fire to purify all of that so that we can see who we truly are. beyond all of that, the scope of that, what we are in here.
It's a very challenging practice.
Yeah, very challenging. It stirs up the pains of life. And nobody wants to face the pains of life. We're so comfortable with the joys, the falling in love, the happiness of life. And sure, that's amazing, of course. But we want to, we're like clinging to all those things.
It's not the full spectrum.
Yeah, it's not the full spectrum of life. And then, that's what life is about. Life is about experiencing the beauties as well as the most uncomfortable challenges of it, and how we can learn from that and grow and experience what it means to be human.
All the feelings of being human.
Yeah.
That people run away from. So Ashtanga is kind of like this, this scary practice for a lot of people. But once you really become involved in the practice for over a year, and you really can see the transformations that go within yourself and around you, but you really have to put in the time. And in today's world, everyone doesn't want to put in time to anything, it seems like.
No. And that's what being an Ashtangi is. Ashtanga means 8-limb path. Part of that is following the discipline, and putting effort into your practice. The Yoga Sutras talks about that abhyasa, putting in a steady effort towards your practice. And that's what's going to get you the optimal results. That's what's going to get you that purification, closer to connecting to yourself and the divine and what that means to you.
It's hard. There's a lot of distractions in the world. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I have friends, they're like, come meet us out at the bar tonight. I'm like, I'm going to wake up at 5 in the morning and do a second series. I don't think so. But then there is times to go out. Like on the other night, it was a full moon, and there was no practice on a Sunday morning. So it is balanced, because we don't practice on Saturdays and full and new moon. So when there is a full moon, I will go with my roommates and I'll have a beer at a bar. Why not? Mm-hmm. To experience. See, that's also the thing, is sometimes we think that in yoga that we can't do certain things, like go out at a bar or something with all the other people around. But I feel like we need to experience not only ascetic life, but also householder life, and be balanced.
Absolutely. I think that, being here on earth, we're meant to experience what it is like to be a human, energetic human or soul within this body. And in order for us to experience the world, we got to be grounded. We have to be connected. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to live on planet Earth, we have to live that householder life. We have to do our, work, our service. We have to communicate with people. We have to interact. And then,
we can't be on our high horse all the time.
No, not at all.
Right.
And, if we're going to learn about ourselves, our biggest mirrors are our relationships. When we interrelate with people, whether it's romantically, family-wise, friendship-wise, or just someone you meet on the street, they're reflecting right back at you who you are.
Mm-hmm. Because they are you.
They are you.
Yeah, they're just another version of you. And it's really hard to understand these things.
Yeah, and of course that comes from the practice. Right. As you keep practicing, you do start to see that. You uncover those veils. And I think that we need to be able to be on Earth so that we can experience that. However, we also have to disconnect too, because we can be too much on that end of the spectrum as well, where we're going out all the time, we're partying, we're doing this, and not doing enough of the sitting at home and meditating or doing your practice or going to bed early.
Restoring the energy.
Yeah, it's like a pendulum swing. You can go too far one way or too far the other. So, of course, yoga asks us to be right in the middle. And I think that's the whole practice. It's not just yoga on the mat. It's yoga off the mat. 24. Someone asked me, so you do yoga every day? I'm like, always, constantly, 24/7. Right? It's not something I'm just going like this. Yeah. It's not just the asana physical practice.
Right, it's not just that.
No.
It's always.
It's the self-study, it's the discipline, it's
not getting mad in the car, things like that.
Or honoring that you're mad, but not reacting from it, just responding.
Or holding into that pain. Mm-hmm. So what did you do before you were a yoga teacher?
As far as work-wise, or as far... I worked corporately, so not only did I work corporately, I also was an actress and a model. I was aspiring that when I got out of college. That's what I really wanted to do. So that's how I made it out to LA. I lived in different places. I lived in Chicago. Lived in Florida originally, New York and Florida, and then Chicago. Modeled, acted in several productions of theater, and then came out LA to kind of go more commercially. And then I discovered, or should I say I was discovered by a corporate job client that hired me to do corporate training for them. And they had different business owners that they would ask me to train them in beauty products, sales, and just wellness for the skin. I had a lot of experience with skincare and cosmetics at the time from my theater background and doing makeup, and my studies of skincare.
Nice.
So I've done quite a few things. It's kind of been my journey of trying to learn what it is that I'm good at and what I want to express in the world. But speaking to people and training them is like my form of public speaking, and I really enjoyed that.
So yoga is just public speaking. Being a yoga teacher
teacher
is just being a public speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't understand that when they go through the training. They think it's about like how good they are at the yoga or something like that, or what they look like or something. But it literally is just your voice.
Yeah.
And how you use your voice.
How you use your voice as far as your external vessel, but then it's also your energy, right? And
Well, that's what I mean. It's your spirit.
Your spirit,
Yeah.
your being, your intentions that you're putting out into it. So yeah, it has all those similarities of acting and public speaking.
It's acting.
On stage, because you have to have those vocals.
Well, sometimes I go to class and I'm like, here's my Patabi Joyce mask.
Oh,
Here's my Iyengar mask. Right?
No mask.
Just kidding. But you know what I mean? Like you can
Yeah,
just tap into their energy a little bit.
Absolutely.
And it's really fun.
I definitely think every time we go to teach, we're definitely tapping into those masters' energies.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly, what I'm teaching is not something that I reinvented.
No.
I may have my spins on my sequences, what I want to design, but all the poses and maybe not even all the poses, but those poses originated from somewhere else. And the teachings and how to configure them and their energies, that came from the masters, and we're just the baton holders.
Right. It's our turn.
Yeah.
It's our turn to hold the torch.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels really good.
That's amazing.
I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to trade it either.
So are you happier teaching yoga than having a corporate job?
Absolutely. Not that what I did before wasn't fun. It was great. I learned so much, met amazing people too. I got to travel the world and made really good money. But this really speaks to who I am. It speaks from my heart. It speaks to what I've always felt as a kid, that I, felt that I needed to bring out in the world.
Mm-hmm. It's your duty.
Yeah, it feels like it's my life's purpose.
Oh, of course.
Part of my life's purpose, should I say. Because your occupation is not necessarily your life's purpose. But
yoga's different.
Yeah, that's true. But it's your path. It's my path.
100%.
Yeah.
And it feels so good to be on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
So what's growing up like in Florida? You were a pastor's daughter.
Right to it, huh? Yeah, that's a very interesting thing a lot of people do not know about me. And so it's been kind of not so much a thing that I didn't want to share, but it's never been really brought up until now in my life. But growing up, even beyond Florida, because I was originally from New York, my parents were very religious, were very Christian. They started off being Catholic when they were young themselves, and then they converted to Christianity, and then from a specific branch, Pentecostal, which is the denomination of Christianity. And so as a little girl, right from the womb, I was taught, everything from the Bible, everything they were supposed to do. And then a few years later, when we moved from New York, we moved to Florida, my mom became a pastor. My parents, they kind of went through a temporary separation. During that time, it was just me and my mom. And she was designated a pastor of a church. So, of course, I became the pastor's daughter. It's quite an interesting experience because I don't want to blame it on my culture. I don't want to blame it on the religion. Just people in general, right? We live in a society, maybe a culture where we've been taught very patriarchal, and having a female as a pastor just because it wasn't looked upon very well. So my mom went through a lot of challenges, and I, as a little girl growing up, as a teenager and a little girl, I had to see this. I had to see how strong my mom was, being a leader, being a teacher of a spiritual practice and trying to help people with her genuine heart. And people just not really accepting it. A lot of people did and a lot of people didn't. So it was just very hard. You're being in a church where you feel that people would be supportive and loving and showing the love of God. And they weren't really displaying that towards my mom because she was a female.
Interesting. I had a deaf female rabbi as a rabbi when I was growing up.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so
did she have any problems?
Not that I'm aware, but I was only like 11, so I don't know. But I can see that, especially in Florida.
Oh yeah, in Florida is definitely can have those issues, those challenges, especially back then. I don't know so much about now. I think it's a little bit, times are changing, but during that time it was a little bit challenging for her. However, it taught me a lot. It made me see how incredibly strong a woman can be, how a woman can just stand in the midst of criticism, of lies or manipulation, and just stand strong to her faith and her beliefs and still keep going, believing in her path, because my mom knew that she was meant to be a leader and a teacher, and she did it, and she did a great job of that. Eventually she let that go, but the time that she was a pastor was meaningful to me.
And then when did you leave Florida?
I left Florida when I was about 21-ish. Well, I left first for Chicago for a little bit, so probably around 19, 20, I left for Chicago for a little bit, modeled a bit, and then I went back to Florida. But then officially left Florida for California when I was about 20, 21.
Okay, wow.
20, no, it was 21, 22.
And you were on the Home Shopping Network.
Oh, how did we going from there to Home Shopping Network?
I mean, so how did you get... You were
easy.
just the pastor's daughter, and then you became a model, and then... You didn't have to work, or I don't know.
Well, no. So I was the pastor's daughter. That wasn't a profession or anything. It was just what I was. From there, I went to college. I studied. I got into modeling. I was on the Home Shopping Network in Florida. I did that a lot. I did a lot of runway when I was there, print ads, and then from there, I decided to stay about half of a year in Chicago and do more modeling. So I did that with my agency at the time. Did a lot of runway fashion catalogs, which unfortunately I don't have all the work to show, because at that time it was a little bit different, no Instagram.
Right.
But I did all of that then, and then went back to Florida for a little bit of time. And then I had gotten married at the time, so I was with someone, and we were married. And from there, he was an actor as well. And so we decided to move to Florida, to California, in Los Angeles.
To go for it. So you have a classic California dream.
Oh, yeah, totally. We both had the classic California dream. And then we came out here, and, we spent a year or so here, and then we ended up, unfortunately, splitting up. And that's just private, of course, between him and I. But then I decided to stay here and continue my pursuit. And so at the time, then I got the corporate job where I was traveling around for business and training people in sales and skincare. And I did that for several years.
10 years, almost a decade?
No, almost 12 years.
Oh, wow, okay.
12 years. Did that for a very long time. And that's what helped me, really be able to be flexible and continue to audition for modeling and acting here in LA. And also just to be able to have a good life here in Los Angeles.
So how did you decide to transition out of that? What happened?
Well, about almost 7 years ago, maybe a little longer than that, I was just having a kind of I guess, I don't want to say midlife crisis, because this is not really midlife for me, but maybe it's an early midlife crisis or something. But I just started feeling like I had been lost. I had started off my life, pastor's daughter, very religious, living in Florida, having all these dreams, all these aspirations. I came out here, had the divorce, that disappointment was not what I expected when I came out here. And just, even though later on I was in a relationship with someone else, and which went really well for many years, I just felt like my life was going on this automatic mode. It didn't feel, not that it was a bad life, it didn't feel like my authentic life, like it was really who I was. And I started to question everything about myself, about who I was with, what I was doing, what I believed, from my religion to things about myself. Had a lot of doubt and insecurity in myself, lack of self-worth. I just felt like I didn't even know who I was anymore. And so that feeling made me kind of depressed and created a lot of anxiety in my life. And a lot of emotional turmoil that I carried on from my past, even my past relationships. And I felt that all of that, I was projecting it so much in my current relationships, not just romantically, but also friendship-wise, family-wise, and just hurting myself and all those around me. And so I had this urge to just change, that I needed to find out who I was, what my purpose was, and what I need to believe. Because I felt so told my whole life, this is what you need to believe. This is the religion you need to follow. This is the path you need to go. Marry, get kids, do this.
So you sum it up. You did everything everyone ever told you to do. You've tried it all. You got married. You were working the corporate job.
Kids, yeah.
Yeah, thank goodness. And you still weren't feeling that contentment.
Yeah, even the limelight work, right? Like being a model, that's what all these people are trying to do now, be on Instagram and be famous. I had a little bits of that, and it was beautiful. It were great experiences, not that any of those things were wrong, but there was just something that kept telling me that just not was what I needed to be in forever. It was not ultimately who I was.
Well, because it's shallow.
It has its shallowness, yes, definitely. Yeah. It's all ego-based. Yes. A lot of stuff is ego-based.
Yes. So then how did you transform? What happened?
So based on that, I just started to research different spiritual backgrounds, because that's what I knew, right? Being a very devoted Christian in my life, I needed to question my belief system, because that was one of the strongest things that I was told. I need to believe this. So for me, I feel that everyone needs to have their own personal experience, because when you have your own personal experience with the divine, or whatever that means to you.
You mean like a religious or a spiritual experience?
Religious or spiritual, whatever that means to you. Maybe it's atheist, it just has to be your personal experience of knowledge seeking, of truth seeking. I feel that when you have that personal experience, whatever that may be, you feel the truth. You're being told, oh, this is what's been written down, so you need to believe this and follow this. I want to believe it because it comes from my heart, because I know it's here. So I was searching for that. Maybe it was from being a pastor's daughter and hearing all those beautiful stories of the great prophets and seeking God and praying and meditating towards Him and getting all these messages. Maybe it was a little bit of that, that desire, that fantasy I wanted to have.
Like you wanted to get the download that Moses got.
Almost. Oh, I almost wanted to have that. Where people fantasize about being superheroes, I was fantasizing about being like Moses, receiving these transmissions.
That's like the coolest thing in the world.
Right? Like, God speaks to you, hey, here's the 10 Commandments. Like, whoa, that's just awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course, I wanted to have that quest. I decided, if I need to transform my life, the first place I need to start with is with God and what that means to me. And if God does exist for me, then I know that's where I can start my transformation. So I wanted to research every spiritual book that was out there, not just the Bible. As I've read the Bible forward and backwards, as a pastor's daughter, I had to read all of that. I even knew all the Bible's books in order. At one point in my life.
Oh my goodness.
I may know a few still. But I had to really know the Bible, and of course you can still read it now, and there's always different types of meanings that mean different things to you at different times. So I'm not trying to say that I won't read it again. But I started to read, different things like the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, started to research more things about Egyptian.
The Flower of Life.
Yeah, the Flower of Life. And just listening to different people who've had their own kind of transformations and experiences. And I got into watching this show that talked about different, authors and stuff. You may know this show.
Ancient
Aliens. Of course, I've always been into aliens ever since I was a little girl, so that's just thing.
Okay.
So it's a very fascinating show. And they were, of course, they're talking about extraterrestrials being the ones who kind of came and were misinterpreted as angels or gods. So, of course, it's, very controversial for a lot of people. It stirs up a lot
people
of that.
get pissed.
Yeah, total energy. But for me, it just stirred up my curiosity. They're researching all these different ancient sites, Pumapunku, like you mentioned, in Bolivia, the pyramids of Egypt, classic, right, from Teotihuacan and all these ancient sites in Machu Picchu that they show you scientifically, that stone and chisel
Laser
could not
cut
possibly cut these stones.
Laser cut stuff.
There's even
I've
stones that have been perfectly placed together as puzzle pieces without mortar.
I've touched it. If you've never been there,
it's
like
incredible.
if you've never been to Machu Picchu or Cusco or in Peru, and you haven't touched the stones, you have no idea how perfect it is. It's laser precision, and they're so big they can't be moved by humans today.
These are incredible stones too that need to be cut by like diamond or lasers.
Yeah, lasers.
Because you can't. They are so hard. Or
sound.
diorite, I believe.
Something.
Yeah. So it's a mystery as to how these things and the ancient alien theorists are pretty intelligent to me. Their
Except for that guy with the curly hair.
Oh yeah, Giorgio.
Oh
yeah,
God, he's annoying.
I love him. I think he's hilarious.
Ancient theories believe.
Yeah, they're intense in there. But I'm not saying that that's what happened.
Okay.
Although I may believe
that's
I may have my beliefs.
That's what sparked your curiosity.
It sparked my curiosity.
To go beyond Christianity.
Yeah, go beyond Christianity.
Okay.
Because, these ancient sites have been around forever, and some of them can't even be really dated.
Well, think about this.
Could be a lot older than what we perceive or what we've been told.
These sites have been there thousands of years before Christ ever walked on the planet.
Right.
So then what about the people before Christ existed? I don't know what happened to them. It's just a weird, that's the ultimate loophole.
What's their spirituality,
exactly,
right? What did they have to follow?
That is the ultimate loophole in Christianity, because what about before he existed? Or if he existed, you know how I think about things.
Were they lost? Did they not get any information?
Did they not get to go to heaven? What about other people on other planets? These are the questions that they can't be answered.
Yeah, well, then they say things like, Jesus, then this blood kind of reverts back, and then he got the keys to hell, and get all those people who died before, and then they're redeemed. So there's always something to account for that. However, it does present that question, like you're saying. For a lot of people, they'll ask that. It's what about before? Or what about these other sites? Or what about what these people believed? Were they pagan? Were they wrong?
Right.
So that's why I wanted to get to the truth of this for myself, without being told. Because for all my life, it's like, no, don't look over there. Don't look at this religion.
It's almost
that's not the right one to look at. You need to look at this.
It's almost like you were raised like Siddhartha in a gated kingdom with no dead people or flowers dying. And everything was perfect, almost, besides racism and things like that in Florida.
It's funny you say that, because as I've looked at that story of the Buddha, I found myself very similar in that case too. In the fact that I almost kind of wasn't allowed to look at the world in certain ways. Not that my parents were kind of hiding me, but it's just that's how our religions were kind of sheltering in a little way.
I mean, I always connected to the Siddhartha story. I grew up in a suburb in Agora Hills in Southern California with everything I ever wanted. I could have had anything I wanted. It had been anything I wanted to be. But I got into yoga because we see that there's everything else is boring.
This stuff just doesn't matter. Yeah. All this material thing is insignificant in the grand scope of it all. So I wanted to learn, I wanted to experience, I wanted to sit mostly with Native Americans. Because to me, if I'm going to go back, I feel that the Native Americans are the closest to really understanding God. Why? Because they're connected with nature, they're connected with, everything around that's natural, the environment. And I feel like a lot of us have disconnected ourselves from the earth, and the earth is our greatest teacher. We came from the earth. Adam and Eve really did exist, they came from the earth. They didn't have TVs, they didn't have cars, they didn't have anything else.
The earth is a living being.
Exactly. So I wanted to start off with those traditions because I felt that, if God's going to speak to me, it's through the earth. It's through the most natural source. Which is why I felt that I needed to go to South America.
So you're considering Native Americans to be also like Native South Americans and Central Americans, all the same thing. A lot of the
ones that are still original kind of exist through there. Of course, in Australia, there's the Aborigines. But there's still a lot of tribes that still exist in those areas.
You mean just regions. Native, not Native American? Okay.
Indigenous cultures.
Not like this type of Indian.
Maybe them too. I wouldn't mind studying with them as well. I mean, they have great, they're all very connected.
They have some crazy practices.
Also, for me, being of Puerto Rican descent, my family being Puerto Rican, we're a mixed culture. Most people don't know that. Puerto Ricans are African, European, but we're also Native American. We're indigenous. So I feel a lot of that within me that calls to me. So I wanted to connect ancestrally, and I wanted to connect with the earth. And so I wanted to go to South America, but before that, I had gone to Sedona in Arizona. So it was with those, like those Native Indians you're talking about. Sedona was a very special place because I felt that kind of ignited the fire of my journey. It was the first place where I had my very clear, I'm awake, not asleep, a clear vision. Because I hadn't had like a real physical vision, with my eyes.
This is before you were a yoga teacher?
Before I was a yoga teacher.
Okay.
And so Sedona is very much known for its energy. Vortexes, very much Native American land. There's crystals, stones, all these things that are about earth and energy. So when I went there, it was kind of with the intention of, getting connected for myself and transforming. And I saw this vision of a great eagle that flew above the canyon when I was meditating in one of the vortexes. And this eagle was just reminding me of just being free, of letting go and flying. And so that was kind of like my confirmation that my quest was what I needed to do.
So that was the beginning of your quest?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was seeking that God confirmation, yes, go ahead, go find out your questions, go ask your questions. So from there, I decided as I was watching Ancient Aliens, I wanted to go to South America based off of those different sites that they showed, some of the authors that came on there and spoke.
Like Graham Hancock?
Graham Hancock, who's one of my most favorite authors, who talks a lot about past civilizations beyond what we know, possibly the Atlantean civilization, but that's another topic. But also Graham Hancock talks a lot about medicinal plants and shamanism, and his experiences particularly with ayahuasca, which is the grand medicine plant of the Incas in the Amazon. So I was very curious about all these different things. So I specifically went to South America to have my own vision quest. And so I took a tour. I went to couple different countries, but my main one was Peru. So I wanted to go to Machu Picchu. I wanted to go, but I also did go to Bolivia and see Teotihuacan, which is supposedly dated beyond 10,000 years.
That's a square thing.
Yeah, that's one with the temple with all the faces,
it's a square, but it goes out and there's squares in the middle.
That's the one with Puma Punku.
Oh, that's Puma Punku. That's not Teotihuacan.
No, Tiwanaku, I'm sorry. Tiwanaku and Puma Punku.
Okay,
those
they're
are the ones
connected?
that are connected.
Okay, yeah.
So Tiwanaku is a little bit more of a newer temple. Not so recent, but newer compared to Puma Punku.
It's only 6,000 years old, not 10?
Well, Puma Punku they have found some interesting things that it may have dated like 13,000 years, which would date beyond the Ice Age. So that's quite interesting because I don't think stone and chisel or laser technology was available during that time. And if these are those stones that look precise. But I went there. I went to all these temples to see those for myself. I felt convinced of what the ancient alien theorists were talking about, at least the stones wise. But there could be many possibilities to that too. So Machu Picchu was kind of scheduled after my shaman's quest.
Okay.
I kind of wanted to have that towards after that experience that I was going to have. So when I went to Cusco, I arranged to sit with some Inca tribesmen and shaman, and I was going to sit with them for a day.
One night?
For one day and one night.
Okay.
And I wanted, this is all I could do at the time, and all I was really willing to go for at the time. So this is me starting my journey, so I was a little bit nervous. A lot nervous.
Oh, it's the most nerve-wracking thing there is.
I prayed so much.
Yeah.
I asked for a gazillion confirmations from God that, if I'm going to die while I do this, if this is a huge sin against you, tell me right now and I won't do it. I was totally looking for all that permission.
Well, it starts before, like a week before you even do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it starts. Like, as soon as you acknowledge it and, like, schedule your ceremony, Aya starts working a week before, and you start having interconnected, amazing experiences.
It's incredible.
It's not only a drink; it already exists within you because it is just nature itself.
Yeah, the molecules are already within your brain system, so you're really just re-triggering or reconnecting those neurons in your mind.
So you're with your boyfriend.
My boyfriend at the time, yeah.
And you're starting your ayahuasca ceremony in Cusco in a retreat center or something?
Yes, a retreat center. Okay. It was a private ceremony though. It was just me and my boyfriend at the time, and the shaman and the assistants.
How much did it cost?
I don't remember. Because
I just did it the other day or like a few weeks ago. It was like $300. But it's worth.
I don't think I paid that much.
It's not. It's worth $1 million, you guys.
Yeah,
it's worth $1 million bajillion dollars
on this medicine.
So, however the price is, I suggest just forking it over and getting the experience.
But let me be crystal clear: ayahuasca is not a party.
It's not a party.
It is a plant medicine. This is something that you don't just go, I'm going to do ayahuasca. And this is some serious medicine.
It's
if you're going to take this, be prepared to see your darkest sides. Be prepared to do the work to heal that for yourself.
The deepest healing.
And to let it go. And not everyone wants to do that. It is not a fun night. I'm just going to say that.
It can be. I've had fun nights.
Well, once you clear your, what you need to clear, your obstacle, then it becomes an amazing, very beautiful, transformative experience. But you have to go through the work. It's like Ashtanga. You're going
to... It's
just like Ashtanga in a bottle almost. Yeah. Like, it's Ashtanga in a bottle. But, it takes you to a very deep place of yourself and makes you see what you don't want to see.
So what happened to you? What happened to you?
So let's backtrack a little bit because there's some important things I want to say about this. So when I went to schedule the ceremony, you do all these different things. They give you these purifications, a specific diet, this fast you have to take. I had to drink this sacred water that came from a volcanic, from the valley that shamans prayed for and everything, and it purified my system. So I already had to do a purification before the intense one. So then the day of the ceremony, we got picked up, and then we got taken to the retreat center. And this was a very interesting day because we weren't going to do the ritual till later in the evening, but we were there in the morning because we had to do another rituals and all these other purifications with the shaman before. It's how sacred this plant is really to the native indigenous. And so when I was there at the retreat center, there was this moment where after the shaman prayed with us and did a couple things, where we got to meditate. And I remember asking God again, I was like, there's still another chance. If you still feel that I shouldn't do this, if it's not the right path for me, let me know. And in that moment, I heard a song in my head. Like, clearly, crystal clear, like you right next to me. I heard this song. It was an old church song, a Christian song, of all things. And it was a verse from the Bible that was commanding you I command you to go forth and be brave.
Sing the song.
Mira que te mando que sea valiente, no tema ni desmayes, porque tu Dios estará contigo.
So that's what you heard?
That's what I heard.
In Spanish?
In Spanish.
Oh, wow.
Crystal clear. So I was like, whoa. I heard that song, to go be strong, be brave, valiant, because I will be with you. God told me that. So I was like, okay, that's a huge sign. So I'm going to go for it. Still, as I'm meditating, all of a sudden I hear my name 3 times. Ana, Ana, Ana. And then within like 10 minutes, the shaman's assistant comes, gets us. So I felt that the name was like a calling. It's you need to come. Yeah. This is what you need to do. I felt
like calling too.
It was just calling me to do it. And mind you, I had not touched anything. There was no drug in my system. I was sober, completely clean. So I was like, okay. I put my big girl pants on, and it's like, I'm going to do this. And so I decided to do it. So we got to the ritual. The shaman does his, sacred space calling to create a very safe environment. And he pours the tea, of course, and he gives it to my boyfriend at the time. He gives it to me.
Just 1 cup?
1 cup.
The whole night you only took 1 cup?
1 cup.
Wow. Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
That's all you needed.
I
needed like 2.5.
I tell you. All I needed. And maybe even this one experience is all I ever need, honestly.
That's crazy.
It was the most incredible experience I ever had. So powerful. It's lasting a lifetime, I feel. It changed my whole life. So
what happened?
That's it. That's the story. Okay. So I drank the tea, and within a few minutes, I started seeing flashes of colors, vibrant colors. It was
like rainbow colors?
Like rainbow colors, but very one solid at a time. It was like either royal blue or like turquoise or pink.
Was it
or purple.
Going up the chakras kind of?
Probably. I think that's exactly what was going.
Like red,
now
orange,
that I
yellow,
have an
purple.
understanding of the chakra system, I do feel that's what it was doing.
Boom, boom.
Because this was pre my yoga days, an understanding of all the philosophies. So I didn't know really all that stuff that was going on. All I knew was how to meditate and ground, because I prepared myself by learning how to connect with my ground before I did the ceremony. So I saw all these colors. I started hearing sounds very intensely. Kind of like very similar things you would go through under psychedelics, like mushrooms and stuff. So those similar things were familiar for me. But then I started feeling the physical sensations. And that was so uncomfortable.
It's so uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable because you feel your digestion, of course, right? Because it hits that. And it's supposed to purify your physical body, your emotional body, all these different bodies.
Astral body,
your
everything.
Astral bodies. This is a very powerful medicine. So it goes into my physical body to purify all of those toxins first, right? So immediately, what I do, I grab the bucket that they provide for you because this is something everyone does. I started throwing up. Just vomiting.
Did you see anything in the vomit?
Oh, yeah. Lots
what
of
were you seeing?
Dark, black stuff that I've never seen in my
last
entire
time
life.
I did it, I was vomiting out blonde hair of my ex-girlfriend.
Oh, that's
I was seeing blonde hair come. I'm like, whoa, look at that. Like, wow, cool.
Attachments.
It said unfollow. Like, it said go unfollow. All right, next morning unfollow. Don't have to think about him anymore.
How to let that go.
And it was also about her friend who was blonde, who I went on a vacation with and was annoying. So I threw up both of their blonde hair.
Wow.
Anyways, your story.
But that's it. No, that's how powerful that is. I mean, I don't know what was in there, but it was some stuff that I've never thought I would see. It was dark. And I just kept throwing up.
A lot, huh?
So much.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to die. I really felt to that point because my body had just gotten so uncomfortable. I even called the assistant because by that time then my vision started getting very cloudy. I looked at my hands at one point and they started looking like tree branches.
Cool.
That was one of the coolest things, right? They started looking like tree branches and I was like, oh boy, I'm definitely
You're here.
in the medicine,
You've
right?
arrived.
So all these different sensations happening. I needed things from blankets because I got cold
And
and
you
I
got
got
hot.
hot.
I need the blanket.
The typical psychedelic
Yeah.
stuff that happens to your physical body, but on a very intense scale.
Were you like in child's pose, going like "Ugh," like that? Or like
No,
rolling on the ground
I think
on your
I sat
side?
a lot of times in Padmasana.
Oh, really?
Because I wanted to ground, so I was trying to have that meditativeness. Sometimes I would kind of curl up in sideline child
like fetus pose,
especially
like,
when I
like
got
that.
sick. Like I went to the bathroom
Yeah.
at one point, and this is when it really started to happen. Like in the beginning, I was like, I need help. I need to go to the bathroom. I just need to be in a dark, cool place. I needed to be dark. I just didn't want anyone around me.
No stimulus, no sound.
And then my ex-boyfriend at the time, he was going through his experience. So I kind of, not that I didn't want to be there for him, but I needed to be there for myself because it was so powerful. So I needed to exit the room. So I went into the bathroom, and then the shaman's up there doing, singing his songs and holding the sacred space as we're going through our Ashtanga, our practice, right? Our
the great
death,
purge.
the great purge. So I go into the bathroom, and I'm, at this point, my emotions start kicking in. So now the physical's kind of a little subsided as far as the digestion, but I felt like my soul was trying to leave my body. Right?
Really?
And I really felt like I was going to die. Mm-hmm. So I got scared. I started crying. I even started speaking to ayahuasca because the shaman told us that we could speak to her.
Oh, you can, yeah.
So I told her, I was like, Lady Ayahuasca, I respect you. I know this is a plant medicine. Can you help me out through this physical discomfort? Because I want to go through these. Just help me through it. And I started feeling that ease where I could at least tolerate the physical sensations. But I still was scared because I could feel my soul was gone. It was just out of my body at this point. And so I just started crying so much. Like I'd never cried in my entire life. It was like tears that came from a well of bottomlessness. There was a bottomless well. I didn't know where it was coming from. And I couldn't stop.
But it felt good? Or was
Not
it like
at the moment.
Okay.
Because it was so intense. And so I started calling as many guides as I could. Because a shaman also told us that we can call guides. And so the best guide that showed up was my dog Jetta. And I loved it because she was kind of like a symbol of courage for me. So she came up into my consciousness, and her soul came to me, and she said, "Be brave." She like literally spoke to me.
Wow.
And so she gave me that encouragement. I was like, okay, I can do this. I can get through this. And then I started seeing these light beings as well. And there were these mysterious guides that I didn't know I even had. But they kind of reminded me of gray aliens because they had that same elongated skull.
But they were nice?
But they were like white, transparent, luminescent color.
So they weren't gray. They weren't the gray.
Grays, no, but they had that shape.
Okay.
But they were more like energetic beings.
They were more like white.
Yes.
Like a
light
not Illuminati, but like luminos.
Like almost transparent, like you could see all the color frequencies. Yeah, like there was probably their astral bodies,
Okay.
whoever they were. They were definitely light beings. And they spoke to me telepathically.
I've seen them, but they were more like eyes and with like wings.
Oh, eyes with wings, yeah. They show up in different ways, whatever, is best suited to your conscious. At least that's my interpretation.
Okay.
But they came to me and they spoke to me telepathically, and they said that we are Earth, we help to protect the Earth. We're here to guide you through your transformation. And that's what I got from them. And I didn't understand that at the time. I do now, but then I didn't. But it was like, wow. So those were some of the things that showed up. And then from there, I still started to continue to feel all these intense emotions. They kept pouring out. The bottomless tears kept coming up again. And so I got so depressed or so down that I felt like I couldn't climb out. Then I started to call out to God. That was my moment of like, I'm drowning. Kind of like in the Bible when, the apostles drowning in the water and Jesus comes and like grabs them from the water, right? I had that kind of moment. And I said, I can't do this anymore. Help me. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I said that, I started hearing this voice that said to me, forgive them.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive them. And I just started seeing all the people in my life that I felt hurt from, my stories, and I just started, saying, so-and-so, I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive that person. I forgive this. And then it even, the forgiveness went beyond that, even to people I don't even know, past lifetimes. And so it's I had to forgive and let that go. And then when I got to the last person I needed to say that to, the voice came back and said, now forgive yourself.
This is so amazing because this is exactly the same experience that I have.
And when I heard that, I really let go.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I said, okay, I forgive myself. Mm-hmm. So I've been carrying so much guilt, so much resentment and bitterness towards things that even I had done to others too, you know, and, I'm not perfect, I've done my own things too. So I had to forgive myself for that and for letting other people hurt me too.
Right, being vulnerable.
Yeah, being vulnerable, accepting things, and then, making my own mistakes as well. So when I said I forgive myself, this is the best part. No, this was the
what happened?
best part. This was the most transformational part of the experience. Because when I said that, it was totally out of scene, out of a movie, almost like The Lion King. I literally saw clouds in the sky break open.
Like when Simba's being
born. Totally like Simba. It was totally like a Simba moment, right? But it was interesting because I saw the universe. It wasn't like the sky. It was just an infinite universe, stars and darkness. Okay. But out of that came out this infinite hand.
Oh, like that painting that you tried to
make.
That
I tried to paint, yeah. It was this hand that was kind of transparent, but golden and white at the same time. And it stretched down. It looked like it was a hand that did not end.
It's almost like the hand in the Sistine Chapel with Michelangelo.
Almost, but it was infinite. Okay. It didn't have an end. It just came from infinity. And so I knew I had to grab that hand. It was kind of like here. Now that you forgave and you forgave yourself, here's the healing. That's what I felt.
Wow.
And so I touched the hand. I went to touch the hand. And as soon as I did that, what I could describe was this pink ribbon flowing from the hand just started to wrap around my hand and then around my whole body. And what I felt was love. And it was the most powerful form of love that I ever experienced. It was like nothing that you feel here on earth. Mm-hmm. It was like
the
God
oneness.
Yes,
yeah,
it was oneness.
Mm-hmm.
It was love. It was pure. It was unconditional. Mm-hmm. It saw beyond all of what I had done, who I was. It just came and penetrated me.
It was samadhi.
It was like a moment. It was my moment of samadhi.
You had a satori. It was a momentary samadhi.
It was a total peak.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know that at the time because I hadn't studied yoga, so I didn't know that.
What is this?
What is this? But when I felt that, I also heard the voice say, this that you experienced of love is not even the grand scope of it. It's only a tiny sliver of it. And that to me was like, wow, I have to get back to that. Because that was incredible. So after that, needless to say, my life was just changed. My life just expanded. I mean, there's other things I saw too, past life stuff, all these different things. I had these different questions about, I had asked God who he was or who it was because I wanted to hear straight from the source. I wanted that experience. So I felt in that moment I got my answer. Not that I know the one absolute answer because it's always inexplainable, right? We're
Beyond
always
words.
going to be consciously, searching for that. And that's part of that. But I feel that for me, what the answer was that it's beyond explanation.
You have to enjoy the mystery.
You have to enjoy the mystery. That the most important part of what God is the love and the oneness. Whether it's, you follow this religion or not, it doesn't matter. It's finding that connection and getting to that divine love. That's the most important thing. And sharing that with everyone else.
So after ayahuasca, do you still consider yourself a Christian?
No.
No. What? How did you? Do you tell your family about that?
Well, it's not that I don't believe in Jesus. I want to make that very clear because I do believe in Jesus, and I prefer to call him Yeshua by his Jewish name because he was a Jewish person. He was not an English American person.
Right.
So Yeshua was a very important leader, spiritual leader, son of God, just like all of us are sons of God. And I do believe in everything that he preached about. But do I believe in the organization of Christianity? No. I don't want to belong to any particular religion. I do believe in all the spiritual teachings that they all offer because after all the studying that I've done, all I can find is that they all say the same thing. They're all looking for the same thing. They just happen to be walking different paths. It's like this one monk told me when I went to Japan. He said to me that his teacher said that we're all going to the same mountaintop. We just all decided to take different trails. So if a monk from Japan, a different religion can say that, and I feel that. So that's
well, Swami Satchidananda says, truth is one, paths are many.
Yeah, that's exactly
But what do you think about, it's such a hard concept to think about because what about all the blood and war and terrorism that is created from religion? So maybe some religions are actually bad. I don't know. It's such a crazy concept to think about. Like, wait a second. I don't know if all the paths are one because some of them have way more death and destruction than the other paths. So I can't accept that some of the paths.
I don't want to blame the spiritual teachings because to me the spiritual teachings and practices are like tools, and you can use a tool for whatever you want. If you take a knife can either be used to cut your food to eat or to kill somebody. So you could take a very powerful spiritual teaching and turn it for something of your own egotistical use. If you frighten enough people into believing something and then you have the truths, they're going to follow you because you have the truths. And if you're leading them by fear, they're going to believe everything you say.
Well, it also has to do with people not being illiterate.
Yeah, that too. People not studying themselves or doing their practices, right? People want it all given to them. Here's the spiritual truth.
I've won.
That's all you have to do is just read this book and you're okay. Or not even that, it's like, you know what, you don't even have to read it, I'll just tell you.
Right. I don't see, there's no hard work in all the religions. You don't have to do anything. You just have to say, I'm in the club, which I don't like that. I like to do the hard work.
I like to do the hard work too. That's why we're Ashtangis.
Because yoga is the greatest investment for our future. And if anyone can send me or tell me anything that is a better investment for my future besides yoga, I'm willing to take questions or willing to contemplate that. But there's absolutely nothing. So if you think about it, there's absolutely nothing that's more important than your future than yoga.
I mean, I think, the yoga is definitely one of the best paths because even if you are religious, you can still practice yoga. I mean, yoga doesn't take you away from being religious. If anything, it enhances what you've already learned from those spiritual faiths. And I think it makes it even better because it teaches you how to be a better person, how to understand your body, your mind, and your heart, and how to express that with others without hurting or causing harm or remaining pure.
So is there anything else that you want to share about your story or yoga or your experiences becoming a yoga teacher that you want to share with our audience?
Well, for me, after that experience, it just totally changed my life. I started to change my whole foundation. I left the last relationship I was in. I lost a lot of friends. Whether my fault or their fault, it still was lost.
It doesn't
matter, right?
Yeah.
Not only that, I've changed from where I live to what I believe.
You dropped your religion.
It's not even what I believe, is I felt like I've always believed in what I believe right now. It just was in a different way. Just opened up in a different way for me. And just But overall, I do feel like I'm a much better person. I don't have those depressions that I had. I don't have those anxieties. What I discovered was who I really am, and what I want to express in this world. And the yoga just continues to do that for me. You know, the ayahuasca was good for just a medicine to take. And just that one experience was more than enough for me. I don't feel like I have to do it again. Mm-hmm. And it may calm me again. Who knows? But I don't feel that I need to have that moment. A satori, like we mentioned, was just enough to kickstart my life into coming in, you know, trying to reconnect to that oneness.
It is the ultimate kickstart. It kicks you in the ass and in the face. And it tells you, get off your ass and get to work. Start serving your community. Forgive all the people that you need to forgive. Forgive yourself. And the peace that you want is already here. Just remove the veil.
That's another thing, too, I had mentioned. You know, I had gone through some of my past life experiences. And one of my questions was like, what was my purpose? What I need to do in this lifetime? Because I was lost. I wanted to find all these things, you know, and, you know, at one point in past lives I had been served, I was a leader of some sort, and so when it showed me that, the voice came into my head and said, you know, you were served before, now it's your turn to be of service. So I knew right then and there that I needed to find some sort of service way of being. I didn't know what it was. I even almost thought maybe I need to move to Peru and become a shaman. I almost did that. And I almost let go of my life, and I almost wanted to run off to Peru.
Drink ayahuasca every night.
No, I don't think I'd want to do that.
Well, the shaman has to drink it every time.
Oh boy, maybe that's the reason why I didn't become a shaman.
It's too hard,
it's
too gnarly.
Intense for me on that one. That's so big of a healer. But, you know, after that, it just, one door kept opening after another. You know, I started studying different things. Different teachers came into my life because I was ready as a student, right? So the teacher arrived. And I just kept following my heart. Just like, I just felt over and over the clarity of where I needed to go, what I needed to research, what I needed to study. And then yoga came into my path. And yoga was like what I needed to continue the deep clearing work, the healing, so that I can find that element within me that I saw in that experience. Because that element in me is in all of us. That hand is us, right? And so I wanted to reconnect with that and share that with people. Maybe not verbally, but at least through what I do, hopefully help them to be inspired to seek out their own experience.
And to go deeper into their yoga.
Exactly. And so I feel that is my purpose, is to help people connect with their own divine self within themselves. To be a guide.
Same purpose as
not to teach what's the truth or not, but just say, hey, you need a question. Ask those questions.
Question authority. Become a rebel Buddha.
Yeah, just question everything that you know. I think the only way for us to know the truth of who we are, what we're doing, where we're going, is to ask all the hard questions. Be willing to ask.
And face them.
And face them.
Face the truth, you guys.
Everything about yourself, from what you believe to what you're doing. You know, make sure that you have a clear connection to your heart with those choices. You know, I do believe this. This does come from my heart. And then follow that. And
yeah, you should just keep going on your path, keep working, don't care what anyone else thinks, and just be yourself 100% authentically. And don't care what anyone writes in the comments or if you get likes or anything. Just keep going as hard as you can.
Yeah, that's all we can do.
Right.
We just have to keep being ourselves. And, you know, one of the greatest gifts that not only ayahuasca, but all of my practices from yoga, from you know, all the deep spiritual studies that I've done and the practices that I've learned from the schools that I've gone of energy, was that it taught me that I just need to really just keep doing the work, the inner work.
Keep going.
Keep going, keep connecting, keep putting that steady effort, that abhyasa.
Yoga is 99% practice and 1% theory.
Always the practice. Life is a practice. Practice of being human.
Yes, be human. Just be a human. Thank you, Anna, for being on the show.
Thanks, Zach, for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to see you.
All right.